Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Up Your Rank FPL. I'm your host, it's Bry. As you can see, today I am without my co-host AC, who is somewhere on an island enjoying some well-needed R&R and vacation time. He will be back. He'll be back shortly. We'll definitely get him for game week 11. But I'll walk you through things today. If you're new to the content here, please be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn your notification bells on so that you can get the latest updates for the FPL videos. Let's get into it. So this is the Game Week 10 preview video. Game Week 10 is quickly coming up on us and want to share the team news, some thoughts with you guys, as well as just what I might be considering in terms of transfers and potential strategy moving forward. This game week looks almost a little bit clear cut just based on how my team is set up, which I'm very happy about. The major injury news kind of plaguing my team, like many others, is of course Alexander Mitrovic. Mitro had that knock from the international game. He's currently at 27% ownership, so there are quite a few FPL players with him in the team. His fixtures look amazing over the next couple of games. He has West Ham coming up this game week, and there was just recent news by his coach that he was able to take part in individual training earlier this morning, but didn't do anything with the team, nothing, no major contact. So he's still very much a potential doubt, but the coach mentioned that he should be good for game week 11, which is the Bournemouth game at home. So with that news, it kind of makes Mitro a little bit of an automatic keep for me right now, as I'm weighing up a potential transfer. I'll get into my team into a second so that you can get a little bit of how I'm going to be set up going into the game week. But the initial news on Mitrovic is at least better than we initially had feared. We didn't want anything long term, so it's good that he's looking at least like he's going to be good to go, if not this weekend, certainly by the next game. Why don't I bring up my team and let you know how I'm going to be set up, kind of going into the game week. So this is how the team is currently set up. I have, starting from the back, Pope in net. Newcastle is facing Brentford at home. I am really, really hoping for a clean sheet here. As you guys know, I have not gotten a single clean sheet or save point from my goalkeeper. Maybe AC's been my bad luck. Now that he's not here for this particular episode, hopefully I could get a clean sheet finally from my goalkeeper. That would be amazing. So I'm really hoping for big things there from Pope. At least a couple of save points, if not the clean sheet. Then Trippier is also in the back. Trippier statistically has been excellent so far this season. Even though he got a little bit lucky last week, getting substituted before they conceded the goal and taking home the clean sheet points. I'm hoping that Newcastle can just round things out again this week. Then Reece James for Chelsea versus Wolves is also in the back line. Chelsea has one of the best odds at keeping a clean sheet this particular game week. Wolves have been very woeful in front of goal. They have one of the lowest expected goals per game for any team in the league. So offensively, they're just quite poor. And so expecting a clean sheet here from Reece James. He looked incredible in the midweek Champions League fixture against AC Milan. He completely dominated Liao. Liao even saying after the game that Reece James is probably the best right back that he's ever played against. And then he rounded out that game by scoring a goal as well, and the assist to Aubameyang. So, we're really hoping he can replicate that type of form in the Premier League. A clean sheet, assist, and a goal would be incredible. I know that's asking for the world, but he's definitely going to be starting this game for against Wolves, especially with the probability of Chelsea keeping a clean sheet. Cancelo rounds out the defense. Man City is playing Southampton at the Etihad. So these are the two biggest opportunities for clean sheets this week based on the bookies odds. So Cancelo will start. Kyle Walker actually had to get surgery last week on his groin, and he's actually now a major doubt to potentially not even be in the World Cup squad. So that was something that really came out of the blue. And with Kyle Walker being out injured, I think that just makes Cancelo even more nailed now, as Pep will probably want one of his mainstays on either side. Cancelo can play either on the right or the left side of the defense. So I think he's all but nailed there. Then moving into midfield, I have Martinelli, who I am planning on starting versus Liverpool. Arsenal is playing at home. They also won their midweek fixture in the Europa League. Martinelli started that game, came off, I think, before 60 minutes even hit. He looked good as well. No major concerns. He's taking guys on. He looked his usual self. Didn't end up getting on the score sheet, but he was definitely electric. And so I'm hoping that can also transition over to this game as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold has been very woeful, defensively, and so hopefully Martinelli can get the better of him. Trent tends to struggle with attackers who constantly run at him and are also quick, and that's kind of Martinelli's game. So we're hoping for that, right? James Maddison has Bournemouth away, even though Bournemouth's form has really shifted since the Liverpool battering a few game weeks ago when they lost 9-0. I'm hoping that Maddison can continue his great form and this can just be a nice open game. I really hope Bournemouth feel like they can, get something from this game and come out attacking. They're the home side. I would love for them to try and go for 3 points because that would potentially leave a lot of space for Maddison to attack and, pick up some interesting positions. He starts. Part of the reason why I brought him in or was planning to bring him in around the wild card. I just love this stretch of fixtures that Leicester has from an offensive standpoint. So he's definitely in the team. Wilfred Zaha also is going to be starting as well. Crystal Palace plays Leeds at home. Palace needs to they need to bounce back, I believe, because last game they played Chelsea, they lost 2-1 after going 1-0 up. And so, these are some of the fixtures that Palace is going to need to take all 3 points from if they are going to, be challenging for those European spots, like I know Patrick Vieira wants to. So Zaha gets the start. Bowen rounds out the midfield with a game against Fulham at home. Bowen got, he was one of the big differentials last week. His ownership now at this point is just still at 4.3% ownership. So he's still a massive differential. Hoping he can really do something here again. I really hope that last game week was the turning point that he needed to kind of kick off his season. He hadn't gotten a goal or an assist prior to that, and then, ends up getting both last game. So hoping he can continue to trend in the right direction there. Then I have Kane versus Bournemouth. This is a tricky one because I'm not necessarily expecting a ton from Harry Kane here, sadly. Bournemouth has been in really good form. Sorry, not Bournemouth. Brighton has been in really good form, and so hoping that hopefully can get something from this game, but I'm really not expecting much from Harry Kane here. I do have the vice captaincy currently on him, but I think come closer to the deadline, I might actually end up just putting the vice captaincy on Reece James, just because I'm a little bit more, have a little bit more confidence in Wolves' lack of being able to score as opposed to Brighton not being able to concede specifically to Kane. That's just kind of where my thinking's at there. I think they're just more secured points there. But either way, probably won't matter because the captaincy is on Erling Haaland. He's playing, City's playing Southampton at home. It's the Etihad. The last, 3 games he's played at the Etihad, he's gotten 3 goals. So we're going to just keep that streak going. He got another brace in the Champions League midweek, and Pep actually had the opportunity to just hook him at halftime. The game was wrapped up against Copenhagen. They were 3-0 up at the break, and Holland didn't get to see the pitch anymore. He just sat him down, got him some rest. He's played a ton of minutes. So I was actually quite happy to see Pep do that. At this point, it doesn't really matter because, as I mentioned last pod, Holland's ownership now is at 83.2%. There's only 16.8% of players who do not have him in their squads. I'm going to go on a wild guess here and just say that probably even 15, maybe 14% of those teams are dead teams at this point. So anyone who's playing typically has him. I know there's a couple of rogue people there who've actually pulled him out of their teams this week. Ben Deneri being one of them who've actually pulled him out due to his ownership. So I'm not going to do that. Captaincy stays on him. I don't see any reason to deviate from that right now. The only opportunity in the future where I will potentially not captain Holland is going to be potentially in game week 11, but definitely game week 12. So those are really the only other weeks that I'm even starting to think about, is there going to be another opportunity for a gamble? And in game week 11, it might be for this Everton fixture with Harry Kane and maybe weighing that up. So that's kind of what I'm thinking at this point. And right now, I am going to start Mitrovic in the team in the starting 11. He's playing West Ham. We know his injury. I just kind of went over his injury news. I know he's a potential doubt. If he's not going to start, I don't believe he plays at all, at which case someone will come off the bench. And I'll get into the bench in a second here because I also had a couple of ideas of what I wanted to do here, or at least what I was initially thinking. So first off the bench is Soufal. I think Soufal's lost his place to Keller, the new right back for West Ham, which really sucks because this is part of why I brought in Soufal on the wild card, was because West Ham's fixtures look good. He was cheap enough, and he would be a good bench player to jump in when needed. And this is really one of the times where I need it. I'd love for, if Mitrovic is not playing, to just be able to play Soufal. Mitrovic not playing drastically lowers Fulham's chances of scoring a goal. So it would just be great to have him there. But he probably doesn't play. Nico Williams second on the bench against Aston Villa, and then Andreas rounding it out, and then Iverson, of course, as the backup goalkeeper. Now, prior to the midweek games, because I wasn't able to do anything with Soufal, I was kind of watching to see what happened. My thought process was actually to bring in Wesley Fofana for Chelsea for this game against Wolves, right? Chelsea is going to have Wolves, then they have Aston Villa. The Brentford game away is also in game week 12, where I'm going to have to bench a couple of players as well and play everyone else in my team because Arsenal and City don't play. So I'll essentially be benching Cancelo, Holland, and Martinelli. So my bench is already kind of full for game week 12. And so all the other players would need to play. And so Fofana was really the person who I wanted because he could slot in for that Brentford fixture. But with him gone now, I'm going to potentially need to look elsewhere because I can't actually afford to have a player not playing right now with those fixtures coming up. So this is my essential thoughts for transfer opportunities this game week or the next. So in terms of transfer activity, the main play, I have one free transfer this week, 0.3 million in the bank. So not a ton of money to work with, but I think there's enough there for us to make a potential move. The player who would, of course, be leaving would need to be Vladimir Sufal. Now, what I was initially thinking is that I would potentially bring in Mark. How do I spell Gahey? Here we go. I would actually potentially bring in Mark Gahey for Sufal. He is zero point 0.1 cheaper than Sufal, and from a fixture standpoint, it's a sea of green, but I feel like it's a little bit deceiving because he's playing Leeds this week. The game is at home. I'm not actually so sure that they're going to be able to keep a clean sheet. Then following that, it's Leicester. We know I'm big on Leicester scoring, and I can't really see me playing him that week. But then it's that game week 12 fixture where, I'm going to have to bench the City and Arsenal players. And I do think that that would be a great opportunity to play him there for that game week 12 fixture. The other thing we could end up doing is just actually potentially bringing in another West Ham defender. And for that, it would just be someone like Kurt Zuma, who would be, a little bit like fully nailed. I don't see Zuma losing his spot anytime soon. He's 0.1 more expensive, and he's going to be playing Fulham this week and Southampton next. But the big issue with bringing in Zuma is game week 12. He has a fixture against Liverpool, which, I wouldn't necessarily be wanting to play him, which tends to be why I'm actually leaning more towards bringing in Gahey instead. I'm gonna have to do that. Which tends to be why I'm looking to more bringing in Mark Gahey instead, right? Um, it would have been great if Fofana was injured, but he wasn't injured, but he's going to be out for at least the next 4 weeks with a sprained knee that he ended up injuring in the Champions League game. It sucked. He also got his first goal for the club. So he was kind of trending upwards, but it is what it is. The transfer is probably just going to end up being that Crystal Palace move for Mark Gahey, bringing him in and kind of going from there. So we'll see. This is going to be a transfer that I have not yet made. It's going to be one that's going to come down to the very last minute. I'm going to wait to try and get as much news as I can before making this particular transfer. I would have loved to just be able to roll the transfer over and, potentially do a little bit of a mini wild card or continue to roll it until game week 12 and maybe do something a little bit more tricky, if you will. I was potentially looking at the ownership I had tied up in Cancelo, and if I was going to be able to maybe ship him out and then move him back in slightly after that, but I don't think I want to do that based on where he is now. I'd end up losing 0.1 mil on that type of move. So just thinking about where I can find little slots and opportunities to take low risk, high reward decisions. And that was one. Game week 12 is definitely one that I'm looking at, as well as captaincy in game week 11. But that's what I'm thinking from a transfer standpoint. those are my transfer thoughts and how the team is going to be set up going into game week 10. With some of these transfer decisions that I'm going to make really being, they're going to come down to the last minute. I'll be posting the final team for the week on to Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at Up Your Rank FPL. That's where you're also going to see AC's team going into this game week. I was chatting with him a little bit while he was on vacation. He hadn't made the transfer for Trent just yet, which, he's now gone down in price. So I'm not sure if he's going to end up doing anything or if he's just going to continue to roll with him into this week. We'll see what he does, but he will be posting that to the Twitter page. Again, if you're new here and you enjoy the content that we're putting out, please be sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe so that you can get the latest updates on when we drop new videos going into the game weeks. I hope you guys have a good one. Wishing you the best of luck in game week 10. Peace, and we'll catch y'all in the next one.